people often come to us for that pre-boarding period because, like I said, it's really where we built a name for ourselves. It's our bread and butter, and it's been a huge challenge in the marketplace. But then they stick around and want to use the tool for the full employee life cycle because it really is the avenue to engage in a mobile first, compliant, intuitive way with your employee base outside of their entry period into the organization.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Michelle Graham. She's the Director of Communications at Clipboarding. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kelsey. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So, Michelle, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Michelle Graham from Minnesota. I've lived here my whole life. My background is in marketing. Absolutely love my field. I have been with Clipboarding about 3.5 years. And took on a communications role last fall. And with that, I got to get more involved in internal communications and actually using our product, our pre-boarding and onboarding solution, and found that I loved it. And now I get the privilege of talking to prospects and clients about how they can take advantage of the system and use it for their organization.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like, you're using the tool yourself. Tell me a little bit more about Clipboarding.
Sure. So Clipboarding, we are an employee onboarding and experience platform. We really built a name for ourselves in the pre-boarding space, which is that from offer accept to day one, when it's really difficult for companies to engage with their new hires. And we really specialize, again, in pre-boarding and onboarding, but we support all transitions through tenure. So that would include any internal mobility, which we like to call cross-boarding, which could be a department transfer, a relocation, a promotion, as well as mergers and acquisitions, offboarding as well. That's something we invested in heavily during COVID. Unfortunately, obviously it was a need and it's inevitable, and we wanted to make it a better experience. And then retention as well. That's always top of mind for us. We have a sentiment analysis tool. So we do all things within the employee lifecycle, all about engagement and engaging with employees mobile first, fully compliant, ensuring that they feel prepared and supported.
Mm-hmm. And why is it so important having, Clipboarding as a solution within a company?
I mentioned it a little bit. That pre-boarding period before day one is really difficult because most HCM suite solutions cannot engage with that new hire until they're an official employee with an official email address. So we break down that barrier and start engaging with them at the moment they say yes, so that we can reaffirm that decision to join and really just maintain that momentum and excitement ahead of day one. And that's critical, especially today when ghosting is such a problem, or not showing up for that first date, right, at your organization. So we really solve for that valley of uncertainty is what we call it. So that not only do they feel excited and their decision is reaffirmed, they're also prepared. They know what's expected. They know where to go, and it alleviates a lot of that uncertainty.
Yeah, I was going to say, thinking of myself going into previous roles, there's so much anxiety around that first day, like first day jitters. It's almost like going back to school, right? So I imagine too, both for the employer side, but also the employee, that probably helps, like you said, alleviate some of that uncertainty, that anxiety of like, holy cow, what am I doing?
Exactly. Yeah, I think everyone has like a horror story about bad onboarding, which is part of why I love this job, because it's easy to understand what good employee engagement feels like. Mm-hmm. And it's easy for me in my role to market it, to communicate it, and work with clients in our space. So everyone knows what good should feel like. And when you actually experience that with the Click platform, it's just very exciting.
That's awesome. And do you tend to see trends in different industries or, kind of like who your clients are?
Sure. So we're definitely industry agnostic, which is kind of a no-brainer because everyone has to onboard, right? Like everyone needs an onboarding solution. They need to ensure their new hires are ready for day one, prepared, have what they need. However, we do play well in certain spaces. I would definitely say segments that have a lot of hiring and a lot of turnover. because economies of scale take place. And we really see an extreme return on that investment for the value of the organization when it comes to, reducing that uncertainty, improving engagement, increasing the time to productivity, as well as the reduction of turnover. Like I said, retention is always top of mind for us.
Mm-hmm. And, you mentioned it a little bit before, kind of talking about it's that, the first day retention. You mentioned several different things that Clickboard is really able to support with, is that kind of that support, the level of support that Clickboarding is able to provide? Do you think that's one of the ways that Clickboarding is really able to differentiate itself?
Yeah, I would say so. People often come to us for that pre-boarding period because, like I said, it's really where we built a name for ourselves. It's our bread and butter, and it's been a huge challenge in the marketplace. But then they stick around and want to use the tool for the full employee life cycle because it really is the avenue to engage in a mobile first, compliant, intuitive way with your employee base outside of their entry period into the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really does. So like I said, compliance is really big for us.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have a proprietary e-signature. I like to call it our best kept secret. I don't know if I can say that, but I will. So clients love that. You can get sign off on policies, agreements, what have you. And it just really is an opportunity to engage with meaningful touch points. So our clients, come in with the new hire mindset, but carry it through the entire journey.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to pick your brain a little bit, when you're talking about that process of onboarding and retention kind of through the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
do you tend to see, any common misconceptions that people are like, oh, this is how I think it is, but it's actually not that way?
That's a good question. I think oftentimes when people come to us, or at least in the past, I think this is starting to change. So keep that in mind. But onboarding has been seen as a nice to have, which is sad kind of when you think about it as an employee. But from an employer standpoint, it's not the first priority for HR, right? It's like, oh, we'll make it work. Everyone has good intentions. The hiring managers will figure it out. The new hires will get what they need in time. Like they said they wanted to join, they'll show up. But in reality, when it goes bad, it goes terribly bad. And the impacts to the organization are so severe. And unfortunately, a lot of companies just aren't tracking that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's a necessity. And that's the first thing we talk about when we get on client calls is, do you know your numbers today and how we could impact those? Because when you deliver optimal experiences from that first moment, the impact that it has by way of productivity, engagement, excitement, commitment, loyalty, right? Like it does add up. And that first year, first even 90 days are so critical for a period of risk where people make that decision to stay or not. So it's everything. If you think about it from the employee view, it's obvious. So we like to share that sentiment with clients and really talk about it as the necessity that it is.
Yeah. And I'm curious how COVID, because I'm thinking in my head, the necessity of virtually having that pre-boarding.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about because you said, you added mergers and acquisitions, I think previously to Clickboarding during COVID. Talk to me a little bit about what COVID looked like for Clickboarding.
Yeah, absolutely. It just perpetuated the existing problem that it's a necessity to have a digital first, mobile first, user-friendly, intuitive onboarding system that is accessible through a device. And with that levels the playing field for new hires that maybe don't have access to a laptop or a desktop, right? And all of a sudden you couldn't bring them into the office day one and have them sit in a dark room and do their paperwork. So our tool, already
so warm and welcoming, by the way.
Right, so welcoming. Yeah, our tool was already shining in that light for existing clients and prospects that were, ahead of the curve and really looking at the trend in the market, but it became an overnight need. And we absolutely invested in our product further as well during that time. Like I said, offboarding is something we really invested in. Unfortunately, furloughs, RIFs, were a reality. And again, it's so important to do those with empathy, with grace, and with the right intention to support your employees rather than, a one-off email with no real support, communication, or plan. So yeah, I mean, COVID was a wild ride for everybody. It had a lot of implications on our business that just proved the value of what we offer.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I appreciate you sharing that. And, certainly during an unfortunate time, it sounds like clickboarding was really able to be, a resource for people to lean on to say, hey, welcome to our work family. We're happy to have you. And this is kind of that warm white glove approach to say, hey, come on over.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's fantastic. Well, Michelle, this has been a terrific conversation. As we start to wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, whether it be advice, anything about clickboarding, your background, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Sure. I would just say advocate for good employee experiences, right? I know not everyone in your audience is in HR or has influence on these types of software purchases, but we're all employees. And at the end of the day, human beings who want to be supported, want to feel prepared, want to feel like someone has our best interests at heart. So I always take that viewpoint. And the market really is changing. Employee expectations are driving how organizations respond and step up and offer the right solution to their new hires. And it's a win-win for everybody. So that would be kind of my sentiment takeaway. I love working in the HR space. It's such a fun community. I was new to it when I joined clickboarding, and it's just this really great people. So that's kind of my own personal plug as well on the space, if anyone's interested.
I love that. That's fantastic. Well, Michelle, like I said, this is a terrific conversation. I appreciate you breaking down all the products, from pre-boarding to retention, offboarding, all of that. I think this was a really terrific conversation. I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Awesome. Thank you. This was super fun. I appreciate the time.
Great to have you.